Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 37 of Illium, our modded CS1 build. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We had a live stream recently where we played around with some countryside housing to form some supported living, a rest stop, and a developed school campus, which also includes some elder care and some really nice motel fusing. You can find our live stream VODs over on the live tab on the channel if you want to recap some of these builds. Either way, today, the city has been suffering from major death waves recently, and in an effort to combat this, I think now would be a good time to build a major hospital health complex just on the edge of the downtown, as we very much begin a transition back from medium to low density in this region of the map. Well, happy Monday to you all, and welcome back to Illium, everyone. So over here currently we have pretty much no local road structure because of course we're right in the 25 tile boundaries here. So let's develop an interchange from this arterial road coming down from the bridge, and then we can also hook it into this one over here as well. So if we're actually starting today's build, and we have some transit options to consider. Now I've been thinking about trying to integrate overground metro into this, but because we have it here, basically just across the hill, and there's already so much transit diverging from the central hub this direction. We have the coastal metro overground, and then there's also the monorail system, and the underground metro system, which is this one here. All going this easterly direction, so I think as much as I'd love to bring the overground metro out from the airport, and maybe we will if the comments are overwhelmingly in favour of it, I think it's a good idea to terminate this line here. So with that in mind, we'll form a custom transit hub without using a hub building, and very much kind of centralise this, I guess, what is a transit hub, as part of the hospital complex here today. Make it a real kind of heart and soul of the build, if you like. A sacred heart, if you will. So our monorail system, we'll plug in there. And then, of course, any underground metro network. I'm always going to go for one of Peanut's stations. I think just a simple single line one is all we need in this instance. I'm just going to bump this up, I think, next door. And we'll make a bit of a custom hub out of this. Have some space for some detailing to develop here. So we'll already see some local roads get use from over here. You are returning to a small sapling greenhouse. All the way over here, holy smokes. And you're going to use the new interchange to do that, are you? Sorry, just interested to see where he goes. Guess he's going to get back on the highway over here, isn't he? Interesting that they're taking that exit out of this industrial area for that. Because he's going back over there. I guess this route is faster than going through downtown and over the bridge, which I really like. That they're kind of bypassing the downtown with the highway networks to get back to industrial sites. Anyway, to not get distracted by logistics, we'll come back into our medical centre here. So I'd love to use some of the new medical assets. I'm going to pretty much use every medical asset in the game here. And we could also dive into the world of campus uniques. We do have, is it the main campus university? Yeah, the School of Medicine, which does want a campus area, but we don't actually currently have this type of campus. We'll consider that a bit later in the build, I think, for right now. We might actually reco that building into industrial, perhaps. I have currently recoed the School of Science and the School of Engineering, actually, both into reco buildings. So we might very well do that for the school today. Either way, new hospitals in the form of renewed history are also here, alongside brutalist hospitals, which I would certainly like to feature given the new packs are out here today. But the renewed history hospital is a really wonderful building, isn't it? It's got a little bit of financial districts to it, kind of older base meets very modern top, but as we've seen from our many expeditions in Google Earth, this does happen in the world. So I think with this hospital, I definitely want it facing out onto this interchange. It's going to be the tallest building in the campus complex, as you can call it here. We'll just have it so it's just connected, slightly set back from the pavement. Now, around the back of the building, this to me looks like a little ambulance bay, I think. So I'd quite like to respect the ambulance, so to speak. I'm going to wrap up the building essentially so it looks like ambulances have full access in. And then we'll just hook this somewhat organically into the metro station. And bring this up. And we'll just start to see where this ore wants to plug in. Although I think I may want the stairs actually exposed to the transit side of the hospital area here, rather than the highway. Yeah, actually two buildings that work quite nicely together, aren't they? Big fan of those there. If we do want to consider the School of Medicine, we should do that sooner rather than later. So I'll walk through the process here for anyone that doesn't know how to use Rico. So we want to create the University of Illium, which won't be staying here. I'm not going to disguise today's build as a campus build. Don't worry. Much as I would love to. Love my campus. So this is the School of Medicine, right? I think definitely an appropriate asset for this build. And it kind of sits very nicely with these other assets, you know. There's a horrific clash here. And when we click on this building, we can open up its Rico settings, which basically tells us how the building functions. So we want to add a local configuration. And then here we can essentially just decide what this building becomes now. So I'm going to make it commercial. High density commercial. The level doesn't particularly matter to me. I don't really play with the land volume mechanic. And the home work account would essentially be how many people work here. So let's just say 50. Which will also scale our jobs for us as well. Again, I'm not massively bothered, I guess. I guess it would make sense to have some well-educated jobs here, wouldn't it? So we'll do 20 of them, which will adjust our work account to 100, but I'm happy with that, to be honest. We're not using the realistic population mod, so that doesn't really matter for us. And then once you're happy with whatever you've changed it to, I'm changing this to a high-density, level 3 commercial building that houses 100 workers of varying different splits. I can then hit save and apply changes. Okay. Now let's delete our campus main building, and of course the campus area itself, which is no longer needed. And then when we come into ploppable Rico, I'm coming to our high density commercial. We'll now see the School of Medicine, which has 100 workplaces and functions now as a ploppable commercial building. High density commercial. It's currently not operating because it just placed it. And there you go. It'll start filling up with workers, and this is now just a commercial building for the simulation. So it really allows you to properly stretch just how much use you can get, specifically from unique buildings, because of course you can do this with any of them from any of the packs. As a very spicy, quick example. Let's just say the courthouse, right? This one here. Do exactly the same thing here again. So it's the Rico mod that allows you to do this. Very cool. You can do endless different things with it. So, really fun mod. Have some fun with it, and you can see what exactly you can turn these buildings into, you know? And I think just where I've placed it there, I have, I think I'm pretty happy with it on that site. It's going to be looking out over the rails here. An internal train station, I also wouldn't mind being part of this build as well, given the fact we have a train line just here emanating from the downtown transit hub, which means we should be able to have our first internal train line here. I'm going to want a bypass network here just because of where this is. Just do that here and delete it so I can manipulate this in. Sweet. So slight change of angles here, but it's no major issue. So it'd be this line here. Now I'm not averse to actually having more stations up and off this metro track here. It is primarily an industrial line, that, but we can certainly split train lines off of it if we want them. So it's attached to this left track here, isn't it? Doesn't have a track currently because that's an internal one to the left side. Yeah, so that one can't actually make it over here. That's the one that will go to Francis eventually. So I think we'll plug it into this hub. The right side one, rather than the central glass station. And then this will be its first stop. And currently, only stop of that line. I will rename the train lines once they've hit a final destination. Because they're likely to change a little bit here as things continue to grow. But that station will give us the bypass line, of course. Bad Peanuts train stations pack. One of the best the game ever got. And you can get it on Instant Gaming for a very good price. That helps support the channel below. Interestingly enough, we're also getting quite a few walkers coming down from the industrial area here. Going to the School of Medicine. They must have walked quite a distance. Here's the first train. With a fair few people on it. Very nice, okay. People want to come over here. I imagine this is the first wave of workers. Oh, you're just visiting the station, are you? Is that all you're doing? Where did all those people just go? Did you see that? That's like X-Files moment, isn't it? Did I just hallucinate that? Am I going insane? Have I put too many hours into Cities Skylines and I'm now just envisioning people using public transit and they're not actually there? That was very strange. Not sure where they all went. Either way, I want to connect the metro in here, which can now make it extend even further. Just to recap, this metro line is the one coming out from the central station here, which then continues down the coastline toward the ASUS ferry hub over this way. And of course, let's not forget to add it back over in the central park. This is one of the busiest stops, this one. Definitely don't want to have it not here. Getting really busy around here now, actually, isn't it? Look at this. Yes, please, everyone. One of our metros getting quite a bit of usage. She is starting to knock onto the monorail a little bit. Not as much as I would ideally like, but other people, isn't that? That's why we're all here, isn't it? Look at that. Wasn't really envisioning this area to get as busy as it has been. Yes, please. Yes, please, everyone. There we go. Wonderful news. I'm actually thinking of downgrading the couplet and this side of the highway as well. Keeping the north and southerly directions high-speed highway, and of course the interchange as well. Maybe beyond the interchange we'll downgrade to cycling couplet again. And just not have it as high-speed highway. We'll see though. Not enough workers, it says, on the recode building. That's fine, we'll come to deal with that. Where we do have a lot of this space here, I'm just going to bring some nodes down to the height of the building. And just eat into the terrain layers a touch here. But I would love to have a lot of the space around the edge of the building here to be sort of cohesive and walkable for commuters and their computers. Bring this straight the way down. Now, again, I'm always happy to respect a door, but don't think we have any here. And that door is on the road, is it? Let's pull that back a touch. No, that's fine though. We could, I guess, technically make one. Let's have it go here from the front door. And then we'll actually feed this in the middle of the building. I'll have that come out there. Because it doesn't really look like a door, I can probably fuse in one of the shelter buildings. Specifically the shopping cart shelter. Which is, I think, the asset that looks most like a doorway. And we'll grab this and just gently configure it. And just bring it into the doorway. Just so it's about there. They're actually walking through the building there, aren't they? But at least then from that perspective they can start to kind of walk through the building from side to side. Let's bring some more roads up here. And I'd like to address some death care, I think. So we did get some new crematoriums with the Brutalist pack, which are really nice assets, and I think also very repeatable. If you want to discuss a fusing, I'm not against a touch of Brutalist crematorium fusing science. But I do like that, and I also love this little reflecting pool it has kind of behind it, right? Which I think is where we can begin to perhaps form a bit of a garden. I'm going to bring a pathway through here, tree lined I think as well. Just have that sit behind the buildings. And then almost duplicate them, worrying about that second road connection in a second. And then just have them here. It's actually not very far from being connected anyway, I don't think. And then we'll feed these down. And I think I'm generally happy with that configuration. Perhaps a touch of manipulation required in the middle. And then we'll have some palm trees here. Yeah. You could essentially just keep running that pattern as many times as you want for modular death care. I have to say I really do enjoy the pattern it creates, especially with these little ponds either side, right? I think that's quite a nice little design there. If we are also running with water, I wouldn't mind maybe complementing that with pond. And that one's going to be a little too big. As is that one, I think, as well. But we can always adjust this. I'm just going to bump all that over. Not worry too much about these entrance roads. They're only there for functionality right now. We'll define something a bit more later. Okay. I think I'm going to run with this layered pond crematorium design there. I'm quite happy with that. This will be quite easy, I think, to blend in perhaps some more rehabilitation themed buildings. Coming back into our medical tab, I think there's certainly a gymnasium. Again, if we really want to keep embellishing the water aesthetic, how about a pool and yoga garden combination as well, I think. And with a bit of jiggery pokery, we can probably make this look like a really nice little rehab area of what is I guess going to be a fairly private and expensive medical facility here. But the point of being of this build is that we have a lot of death care, i.e. these new Brutalist crematoriums, with immediate access to the high-speed networks to get across the city, really, to take care of the death we've been suffering. So hopefully that'll give it a bit more accessibility into the rest of the city, we hope. So as the hospital continues to develop here, I think it's also in a really good location. We mentioned an eventual racetrack down here. I feel like, no, God forbid, should there be an accident at this racetrack eventually, at least it's close to immediate medical care just across the highway, right? With that idea in mind, I think a little slip lane that just follows this trajectory on the highway would also give good access for this industrial area as well. So I think that's what we're going to do. So this is actually a convenient time to use parallel mode. I'm going to go from here to here. And we'll just move this a touch away, not too far. Then let's just bring this into the next node along there. Bit of node controller just to square everyone off. I'm going to pull green back a little bit. I don't want it to be that wide. Then here, I was noticing I could probably bring it into this road, which wouldn't be awful. But it then requires all the industrial traffic to kind of force its way through the hospital grounds, which I think would be a little bit weird. So I think I might actually just do a perfect curve here. I'll go for 6, give them some space to turn. Some configuration like that is pretty much what I'm thinking of, and that's immediately being used as well by a fish factory owner. Plus, all of that industrial traffic, isn't that so satisfying? Well, a fix almost immediately pays off. I think that will end up getting quite a lot of use. And also pretty much the same concept as well for any medical vehicles leaving this complex over here. Good stuff. So we have a bit of a recovery area happening here now. I'm happy with this. Certainly some car parking to come in, especially by the larger buildings, is justified. So I think I'd like to bring in some kind of general office and administration space. You can imagine these being various wings of the medical district. Oncology, maternity, etc. Everyone who has been to a hospital before will know what to build here. And then let's just push this out. I think I'd like to have a little bit of just general admin and administration space. And for some reason, given the featuring of the Brutalist buildings, I can picture one of the Japanese offices here. In particular, I think this one and the taller one, which I think is the register office, yeah. I think the presence of these two. I think there's something about them that look very hospital-esque, I think. Now, with any medical build, I'd always give the justification as well for including a red cross somewhere. We do have some medical signage here. Right here, I think we're going to move on to the corner, rotate 45 degrees, and just adjust till we find a connection. And then see if we can actually bring this one into the side here. Making sure we're not too obnoxious with the fusing. I'm pretty happy with that there, to be honest. Just joining onto that ramp, isn't it? Yeah, I can enjoy that. Then I think for most of the car parking, we'll stick to Railroads of Japan. Going for a few small car parks here. And I think around the larger ones. Then again, do you want to bring in a multi-story here? I think a multi-story for a hospital that's this big is probably going to be on the cards, actually. Let's get them right by the metro and the medical centre here, opposite the train station. Which then I would like, I think, some parks that just flow around these massive buildings. And just develop some symmetry and walkable space. As the build continues to develop into a detail in time-lapse, I think. Also decorate up the interchange and the local road network. Now we're expanding over here. And then just a point on this, as we're moving into the 25 tile spaces now, it's quite easy, I think, to start speeding up your build, because all of a sudden, when you're not opening a tile at a time anymore, you're presented with such vast space, which opens up this huge area. Which can kind of make you want to speed up in your build process to fill this much space. I think it's important that we maintain at the pace that we have been to create this level of density in the city, right? Because I think it can be very easy to try and speed up and just start mass zoning and filling. And that'll be a similar situation over here as well, as we open up these spaces, like, oh my god, like it's so much space to fill. But I think we'll have a lot of fun in particular with gated communities and low density residential designs. You know, this bit of the map like we spoke about before. But either way, grab yourself some snacks and we'll be right back with some detailing time-lapse. Alright guys, let's have a little review around our Medicare, well mainly deathcare complex really. Coming down the new arterial road, things are obviously pretty quiet down here in terms of what's going to lie down the end of it. The land really narrows off down here, opening up to some more developable areas over this way I suppose. These kind of like fingerland islands over this way. Again, no real plans for this very sparse area of the map. Any ideas, feel free to get them down below. But whatever does lie down here, I think something on these islands is probably more appropriate. It's not super buildable, this area. Maybe some smaller fishing towns, possibly. Small little fishing wharfs or industrial stuff. But either way, that will go down there at some point, but ideas as to what sits down there yet. Coming into our little road, added in some asymmetry with some jacaranda lining. We can also put the monorail this way again for the same reason. It wasn't really going anywhere over there. I thought, well, it's better to converge off to the, well, what will be the denser parts of this bit of the map over here. So preparing that monorail to flow that direction. Added in more death care, which is ultimately the point of today's build. We now have 6 death care buildings just off of the highway with access to all directions, so massive amount of death care increase. For Illium, it probably shouldn't need any for a good long while yet, if any at all after this. And fusings of all the death care buildings. There's actually 2 of the Korean crematoriums here, which again I think in amongst this kind of rehab block really functions, you know, maybe as some sort of hydrotherapy or physiotherapy buildings. Especially when it's sat next to the pool here, right? So always love that vibe. The yoga garden sits in very nicely with the very fusible brutalist crematoriums, as it turns out. You could keep this pattern going for a long time as well if you wanted to. That's a lot of fun to be had with these buildings. Beyond that, our pond sits down here as we approach some landscaping around the foot of the School of Medicine, which also has some plazas here. I think for once in the city, the monorail is actually busier than the metro here. So we've got 87 via the metro and 224 on the monorail, which is the first instance of that really happening. I think that's probably because the monorail is plugged into the airport, which is getting quite a bit of traffic these days, I think, especially with the bus routes that are down here now. There's yeah, a fair amount of people ferrying around these districts. I think if we'd have brought the overground metro over, then we would have had a bit more. Although having said that, it is currently completely dead. Is anyone using this? No. Why? Why is this so quiet? This was like the busiest thing in the world a few episodes ago. We discovered possible bugs. Oh, it is busy. It is busy. Yeah, it's just... we must have just caught it on the perfect rotation, I guess. Either that or the AI has moved to using different methods of transit now. Maybe the train is taking them all over here. Who knows? We'll wait and see. So the monorail comes over now, of course, into the district. Also added in the helicopter park with some gazebos over here at the front of the hospital, alongside using some of those ambulance props we have, just to bring that ambulance bay to life a little bit. Some stationary ambulances waiting, a bit of a fleet ready to go out. Rotated the stairs as well just to face this open corner into the pond and the rehab area, if you like. The train itself is getting 302, although in hindsight I probably want to disallow intercity trains here. Don't really want tourists arriving here again. Any intercity trains arriving in this district all should go into the central station. But regardless, the passenger train is still getting some use. Over here just developed a crossing at the front of the station so they can easily cross over to the other side. With a cafe just outside too. And that little slip ramp here is getting used. If anything, I think there's justification possibly for another one coming off here to link them back in. But there's no major traffic developments this side yet. So kind of an unnecessary waste of nodes. So I'm going to avoid it. Unless it gets really horrific around this interchange. And we can start to add in some extra relief systems into this network here. But yeah, that one turned out really nicely. Loads of industrial traffic using this, especially forestry traffic. So of course to get back to the very start of forestry area we made. All the way over there. So that's great to see. Love, love, love that. Over here, just allowing that green space to flow as we come up into a little, I guess what is a memorial garden from my perspective, and with signage, benches and fountains that just offers a place to sit and reflect in the grounds of this large medical institution. Perhaps think of sick loved ones or people who undergoing treatment here. Whatever vibe you want as the monorail pulls into the bay there. And that wonderful view. Get to enjoy some walking porn over here. Great stuff. And then this loops around to the front of the entrance to the hospital, which has had all the road to, or fence to road upgrade stuff done around the edge there. Almost as a bit of a safety barrier, I think. To just sit here as the density really starts to diminish, I think, in terms of what we're going to put here, because these are really the major corners of our interchange we spoke about for a while. We have this big arts and leisure district here, the garbage recycling, of course, and then this new hospital grounds over here. It's a lot of fun, and it's given us exactly what we need today. Absolutely tons of death care capacity right by a highway interchange. I didn't downgrade it, obviously, over here. I'm just not sure what I'm going to do with this area just yet. So I may want the highway, so we might downgrade it to cycling couplet at some point. And like we mentioned earlier this episode, with what we've done this side of the interchange. So essentially just slow the road down, which will just keep making this national highway road. And that runs through the continuous flow intersection in the city centre all the way through here. Back to the highway this side, it will just continue to be regular road over there. So we might do that yet, just unsold, unsure on exactly what's going to sit there. Down towards the entrance as we come in past the death care, we will see a medical laboratory from the high-tech DLC. The monorail road, of course, now flowing through the campus as well. Pathways taking people up to different regions. Before the office space sits in with some staff car parking and some light staff lunch detailing just behind the office block. Before those train networks introduce themselves back in again. Before we start approaching again new views and new vistas on this map. We mentioned this a few episodes ago in the Green Beach build. You know, we're just starting to see new landscapes to look upon. So I think I really am beginning to itch for the Illium race course, I think. I think it's just going to look so good here with the airport and the hospital so close by to it. I think it's going to make a really fun, quite thematic build for Illium once it receives a racetrack, which might be next episode. We'll see, of course. Otherwise, let's thank you all so much for watching. A huge shout out to the patrons and YouTube members bankrolling these videos, with a roll call to our golden patron X: Casino, Spartan Angel, Michael W, Wolfo, Phoenix ND, Jamin, Great C, Bryce Johnson, Sean, Trevor Larson, and John Mittag. Thank you so much indeed for all of your incredible support, guys. If you want to get involved in that, links as always are down below. Also come and join us in the Discord as well for lots of good morning and voice chat gaming sessions if you're interested in that. Either way, Illium enters very much a new phase of its development now. We've moved on from the downtown development, although we're still building in orbit of it. We're also due some farming in Illium in the not too distant future. We've reached nearly 40 episodes without a single farm in the city, so probably time to get some more rural, cute vibes going on in the southern valleys on the opposite side of the river from here. Be a nice break from what has been pretty relentless density since beginning the downtown projects. I'll shut up and leave it there. Thank you all again so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.